And so how many different huts?
It's 4 huts today.
Okay.
With 66 wines. So it's
66 wines.
Quite a challenge if you would like to try them all.
Yeah, right. From Eat Drink Fun, this is the Eat Drink Fun podcast. I'm Chris Miller. This episode covers one of my favorite winter activities in the Italian Dolomites. It's the annual wine ski safari in Alta Badia. I dig into a bit of history about the Alto Adige Südtirol region. I discuss the terroir, the climate, the types of grapes they grow, and how these combine to shape a really unique character in the local wine. I myself sip some favorites, Gewürztraminer and Lagrein. I also interview a restaurateur about the local foods, and then I ask about Ladin culture, which is not just a language, but itself a unique cultural identity in this part of the European Alps. So, what's a wine ski safari? It's pretty simple. You explore a number of beautiful alpine chalets on skis or snowboard. We're in Italy, so the chalets are called refugios, and at each refugio you find a lineup of sparkling, white, and red wines. The wines are beautiful, perfectly complementing the 360 degrees high-altitude Italian Alps all around you. It's actually kind of reminiscent of Lord of the Rings, and honestly, I really hope a similar event like this exists in New Zealand. They also serve one of my favorite hot alcoholic drinks, the bombardino. It's usually someone's nonna making it from some family recipe in the back. It's sweet egg liqueur spiked with brandy. Now, just think of the very best eggnog you've ever had. Now multiply that goodness by 100 and top it with some homemade whipped cream. But really, wine is king here. And it's world class. It's still underappreciated for some reason. You can find it in your local wine shop if you're lucky. Look for the Südtirol capsule on the top of the bottle. That's the German name for the region, Alto Adige. In fact, the majority of the population here speaks German, because after all, this was Austria until 1919. But about 30,000 locals speak Ladin, which is one of the few Rhaeto-Romance language dialects still in existence. The wine ski safari I'm covering is hosted in a subregion called Alta Badia. Alta Badia is comprised of several villages, but I prefer to stay in Corvara because it's close to all the action. Corvara, the Alta Badia region, and really the entire Dolomite range is one of the most beautiful places on Earth. In fact, in 2009, UNESCO classified the Dolomite mountain range as a World Heritage Site. There are 18 peaks that rise above 3,000 meters. That's just shy of 10,000 feet. At the centerpiece is the Sella Group. It's a gigantic plateau-shaped massif with sheer, vertical walls. You can ski around the entire massif in either direction, clockwise or counterclockwise. The tour takes at least half a day. It's about 40 kilometers long, or 25 miles. The circuit is famous, and it's known as the Sella Ronda. The village of Corvara is located at about the 2 o'clock position in the northeast corner of the Sella Ronda. I love Corvara for many reasons, but there are 3 big ones. First, it seems to be drenched in sun. The exposure is southern and the valley floor is wide enough to let the sun shine all day long. Second, the slopes offer great opportunities for both beginners and experts. So if you're bringing along friends or family of different ability levels, everyone gets to have fun. And third, it's the food and the wine. The restaurants in, around, and above Corvara are truly world class. Now, to understand a little history of Alta Badia as a ski destination, I'd like to start with a conversation that I had with a woman named Sylvia. Sylvia is the product manager for the Alta Badia brand, and in that role, she's responsible for organizing the main tourist and cultural events that include the ski safari.
Alta Badia is formed by 6 villages, which are Corfosco, Corvara, La Villa, San Cassiano, Badia, and La Valle. The history of our region probably begin in 1946, when the first chairlift was built in Corvara, the first chairlift of Italy.
In Corvara?
Yes, in Corvara.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes, and year by year, many other ski lifts were built to connect Corvara with the other villages. And then in the 70s, the Dolomiti Super Ski region was created. And nowadays you can enjoy 1,200 kilometers of slopes with one pass.
I just want to unpack that one for a second. The Dolomiti Super Ski region is the largest on Earth. At 1,200 kilometers, that's 745 miles that gets groomed every single day. 12 different ski areas, 450 lifts, and it includes Cortina da Pezzo. The total price is €60, or about $65 a day. It's a pretty sick value. I'll post links to the Celeranda ski circuit in the show notes. Once I got my ski pass, I headed up the slopes where I chatted with a member of one of the wine-producing families.
Hi, my name is Nora. I'm from South Tyrol, and my father and brother, they both work in our vineyards, and we produce wine for the community winery in St. Pelt.
I asked Nora to give me a little background on the wine ski safari.
Yeah, it's like a skiing day with friends where you can try different wines. Like today we have 66 different wines from 31 wineries, like small wineries, private wineries, or also like bigger ones. And just to get like a taste of South Tyrol, because if you go to a village and there is the local winery, you just have those wines. And with this event, you get to have like a broader exposure to all the wines we can.
That's great. And so how many different huts?
It's 4 huts today.
Okay.
With 66 wines. So it's like quite a challenge if you would like to try them all.
Yeah, right. And you get a bracelet for
the whole day. We have the bracelets, the silver bracelets, or you can also just have like 3 small wines and you get like this little ticket where we cross off your taste.
The tickets are great if you're just skiing through, but I always find myself spending the €30, getting a bracelet, and making an entire day of it. You can get a good 90 minutes of runs in before the event starts at 10 a.m., and then you just ski from refugio to refugio, tasting wines, eating local cheeses, and Südtiroler speck, which is a lightly smoked, salted, and air-dried ham, doing a little dancing, and then lounging on deck chairs in the sun until the lifts close at around 4:30. Nora also gave me some background on how winemaking works for most small producers and what grape varieties her family focuses on.
Yeah, in South Tyrol, we don't have huge amounts of land. Every family owns a bit of land, And this is our way actually to survive as farmers and winemakers, so we can share the stuff we need for making wine. So not everybody has to purchase it on its own, but we produce wine as a collective winery, yeah.
And what wines are you primarily producing?
In South Tyrol, we are really big on white wine. So that's my family. We have Weißburgunder. That is very typical for the region. Also Gewürztraminer. That is a typical wine for the southern part of South Tyrol. And also a bit of Blauburgunder. And my family especially, we own a really old vineyard with Weißburgunder. And it's about 100 years old, so it's like really special.
Wow.
It's a really typical wine for our region and one we really like and appreciate.
Indeed. These small collective producers like St. Paul's are making some fantastic wines. In fact, I posted a link to their Weißburgunder Reserva Passion in the show notes. Now, I want to take a minute to talk about what makes Südtirol Alto Adige a unique wine region and why their wines are worth exploring. Wine people love to talk about terroir. It's a French term, and unfortunately, it tends to get abused. All it means is that a product like wine reflects the place that it came from. Everybody wants to claim that their wine reflects a unique terroir, but really, often it's just marketing. In Südtirol Alto Adige, though, it's real. And why is that? First, you got to consider the climate. They have a moderate climate, which means they get all 4 seasons, but temperatures are really warm in the summer, and that's because the mountains actually block these northern, cooler winds. That's great because the fruit can fully ripen in warm weather, which means you get more sugar, and in the end, you get more alcohol produced during fermentation. But chilly nights are also good. Those grapes, they cool down on a cool night, and that retains really essential acidity. In the end, this process called diurnal variation, it produces wines that are more balanced and more complex. Second, you have to consider terrain and soils. Now, the geology in Südtirol Alto Adige is very unique, and it dates back more than 250 million years. First, volcanoes deposited ash and lava, sometimes thousands of meters deep. Next, warm seas came flooding in, creating coral reefs, depositing sediment, and creating large underwater rock slides. After more volcanic activity, the seas receded, and the European and African tectonic plates collided, creating the Alps. Finally, over the last 2 million years, there are 4 glacial periods. Now, these glaciers reshaped the valleys and deposited over 150 different rock and soil types. This diversity of soil means that the plots adjacent to one another, or even just around the bend of the mountain, may have vastly different soils. And as a result, growers can plant many different varieties. Third, you got to consider altitude. The most important aspect of altitude here is greater diurnal variation. As the slope becomes steeper, the angle to the sun increases and the sun's rays become more intense. At night, it gets even cooler at higher elevations. And again, this leads to better balance and more complexity in the wine. The bottom line is that by mixing this unique climate, soils, and altitude, the grapes that you think you know, they taste different in Alto Adige. I argue they taste better. Of course, Nora mentioned this is predominantly a white wine growing region. I'll highlight a few whites that I think are special, specifically Pinot Grigio, Chardonnay, and Gewürztraminer. Now, Pinot Grigio's German name is Grauburgunder. In Südtirol, the difference here is in the grape clone. Further south, below the Alps in the Veneto, the clone is large, plump, and watery. If I had to equate it to a driving experience, it's like getting into a Toyota. It's comfortable, it's reliable, it's inexpensive. But Pinot Grigio and Alto Adige, they use a clone that is smaller and more concentrated. So it's like getting into a BMW if you're going to drink it. It's edgy, powerful, racy, fresh. So that analogy is a little bit silly, but I hope you get the idea. Next, I want to talk about Chardonnay. It's used to make both traditional method sparkling wines and still wines. So if you pick up a bottle of bubbly and it says Ferrari on the label, that is not the car maker. That's actually a very high quality sparkling wine producer near the town of Trento. As for still wine, one of my favorite Chardonnays anywhere is a blend called Beyond the Clouds. It's produced by Elena Valk. Now that winery has an interesting story. Elena Valk was an architect before she took over the family operation and became instrumental in raising the bar of excellence for Alto Adige wines. It's not common to find a woman running a winery, and she's now handing over operations to her 2 daughters, Julia and Caroline. And if you're interested, there's a great interview on the Wine for Normal People podcast at episode 310 about the quality revolution in Alto Adige, and that interview's with Caroline Valk. But sitting in front of me is a beautiful glass of Gewürztraminer. So Gewürztraminer is indigenous to Südtirol Alto Adige, and it has a special history because it's the offspring of 2 of Europe's oldest grape varieties, Pinot and Sauvignon. In fact, it's a Musqué mutation of the Traminer grape. Whereas Traminer is pale and green and not very aromatic, Gewürztraminer is dark pink and very aromatic. People cite the literal German translation as spicy Traminer, but the more accurate meaning, I think, is perfumed Traminer. When you look at it, it's a beautiful, golden, bright color. On the nose, the intensity of aroma is pronounced. It's coming out of the glass. And that predominant smell, which is kind of a tell for Gewürztraminer, is lychees. You also get these warm fruit aromas. Think of ripe peach or apricot that's been left out on the counter in the sun. Let's taste it. Oh yeah. Lychees, peach, apricot, even that overripe pineapple. This is not a sweet wine, probably only 2 grams of residual sugar, but the perfume makes you think you're drinking a wine that has a little bit more sugar in it. The acidity is medium on this wine, and that's one thing I think distinguishes it from Gewürztraminer from Alsace. In Alsace, and trust me, the French make seriously fantastic Gewürztraminer. In Alsace, it tends to be a little thicker and a little oilier on your palate. In Alto Adige, though, because of that diurnal variation, you get a little bit more acid, I think, and the result is a fresher, more lifted wine. Even though this thing has 14% alcohol by volume, and that's pretty high octane, it doesn't weigh you down. Anyway, the wine I'm enjoying is produced by the Colterenzio Wine Cooperative, which sources its grapes from over 300 different family growers. I found it at my local wine shop for about 11 euros, 12 US bucks. I'll post a link to it in the show notes. But for now, let's return to Sylvia from the Alta Badia brand to discuss how the locals conceived of transforming the region into a ski, food, and wine tourism destination.
They discovered that perfect slopes are not enough to build a unique experience for the visitors. So they thought, what about if we combine skiing with other experiences like gastronomic experience, like wine tasting experience. So they tried, and Sciare con Gusto, the initiative that combine Michelin-starred cuisine with skiing, was created like 10 years ago, like I said. And then other slow ski products took place. Started developing, like the wine ski safari.
After the break, we'll dive a little deeper on Sciare con Gusto and Alto Adige's culinary events. And we'll also touch on some red wines and learn a little bit about Ladin culture and food. If you're planning a trip to Europe, once you have permission, of course, and you want part of that trip to focus on wine, beer, spirits, or cuisine, then please consider contacting me at Eat Drink Fun for a consultation, especially if you're considering Germany, Austria, Switzerland, France, or Italy. I would be happy to work with you to build a unique itinerary and to coordinate the details with local vineyards, restaurants, and hotels. On occasion, I also provide personally guided trips centered around wine and food, both on skis and by motorcycle. You'll find me on social media at Eat Drink Fun, or you can send me a message at info@eatdrinkfun.com. So, Sciare con Gusto, or in English, skiing with taste, or a taste of skiing, was the first gastronomic event in Alta Badia. I asked Sylvia to explain the format.
It works like this. There are 10 Michelin-starred chefs, which are combined with each with a mountain hut. The chefs create a dish, which is on the menu during all winter long on the menu of the hut.
This is just a crazy good event if you like both skiing and food. I came upon one of the huts this past winter while skiing with family. We enjoyed one of the best tortellini dishes of my life, and it was very reasonable at around $20. Some of the incredible talent includes 3-star Michelin chef Norbert Niederkoffler of restaurant Sant Hubertus at the Hotel Rosa Alpina. He started his career in the region. You'll also find locally grown 1-star Michelin chef Nicola Lara of restaurant La Stua at the Hotel La Perla. Because she's also a local, I asked Sylvia what she prefers to drink.
If you ask me which wines are my favorites.
Yeah, what do you, if you're sitting down, you're living here, what do you reach for?
I prefer red wines.
Okay.
So Lagrein is a local South Tyrolean wine, which I really like. And for the white wines, I would say Gewürztraminer is fresh, not so strong, so perfect for a ski day.
Obviously, I fully endorse Sylvia's Gewürztraminer call, but I'm also a huge fan of Lagrein. In fact, it's my favorite red in the region. As I mentioned before, the climate and topology support a large diversity of grapes. For light-bodied reds, you find both Pinot Noir, that's Blauburgunder or Spätburgunder in German, and Schiava, also called Vernatsch locally. Cooler climate Pinot Noir can be kind of simple and acidic, but in Südtirol, you achieve that full ripeness and higher alcohol. But because Pinot Noir is hard to grow, it has a thin skin and sunburns easily, and it ripens late, it's often planted on western-facing slopes to limit the sun's intensity. Schiava is the same variety as Trollinger in Germany. It's a light-bodied wine. It has flavors that resemble red berries, cotton candy, or bubblegum, and in that way, it kind of reminds me of Gamay. I don't drink it often, but when I do, I like it chilled in the summertime with a hard cheese or dried meat. But coming back to Lagrein, I have a glass of it here in front of me. The color is deep ruby, bordering on purple or almost black in the middle. The aromas, it's rich black plum, black berries, and vanilla. On the palate, oh yeah, it is all dark fruit and a little hint of spice at the end. The tannin is medium, and this wine spends about 15 months in small oak casks before it's being blended. After blending, it goes another 7 months in large casks, and then they rest it in bottle for 12 months before release. This wine is a Steinreffler Lagrein from J. Hofstede, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes. But now, let's return to Sylvia to discover a little more about the unique aspects of local culture.
What are some of the other things that maybe distinguish this area and make it differentiate it from another place?
There are many things, but I will say the first thing is that we have our own culture, own traditions, and our own language, which is Ladin.
Right.
So in our region, we speak Italian, German, English, and plus our local language, which is Ladin.
What is it called?
Yeah.
Is it actually Latin or a
No,
variation?
it's completely another sort of language. Yeah.
So it's like in Switzerland, and I think it's the Engadine they speak.
Yes,
like something like this.
It's a type of Ladin, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to hear it, I'm curious to hear it. Tell me. I bought a ski pass and went to the ski safari this week, or something like that. Or make something up. I don't care.
Io comprei un ski pass e sono giù al wine ski safari l'ultima domani.
Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to place that anywhere.
So you speak German. Did you understand something? No.
Only the words that are, ski pass and ski safari.
Yes.
That's about it.
So perhaps you can empathize with my all too familiar feeling of shame that I'm surrounded by people who speak 3, 4, 5 different languages fluently. And I barely speak 2, if you count my broken German. But that's also what makes travel so interesting. It's a great learning experience, and I'm continually going to school. To learn about some of the local food, I sat down with Melanie from the Mountain Hut Pizza Lara, which is run by her family. Pizza Lara has stunning 360-degree views of the peaks from Alta Badia to the Sella Massif. Besides hosting one of the wine tasting sites, they also have a very good kitchen. Melanie tells me a bit about their offerings.
So in the beginning, what were some of the original, maybe typical regional dishes?
The dumplings. From the beginning until the end, it's going to be the dumplings.
Yeah.
And they are still made it by my mom, handmade it. We have different type of. They are serving with goulash or the spinach dumplings with butter and melted and cheese and cabbage salad. So these are the most traditional meal of South Tyrol.
I also asked if they mixed up their menu from time to time.
It's a mixture because we have like traditional meals like the turtres, who is a fried pastry, a Ladin specialty, made it with spinach and cottage cheese, serve it with a barley soup, who are really the farmers' meals. Like we have also tartare, or my brother went last holiday in Vietnam. He went back and he said, Melanie, let's do spring rolls. And then we started with homemade spring rolls. Or we have like polenta, who is typical Italian. We have pasta, of course. We have burgers as well, but gourmet burgers. So we try to have a big offer with local food, with international food to make our guests happy.
And I was happy, especially if you like homemade desserts. We had the apple strudel, crispy on the outside, gooey on the inside. Perfect. I asked Melanie a little bit about pairing local cuisine with the wine.
With a good glass of white wine, I would like tartare, because it's amazing. And
it's a beef tartare?
Yeah, it's a beef tartare. And of course our speck, our ham, and a bit of local cheese, because with local wines it's amazing, something cold.
Honestly, it's hard to beat local cheese.
What's the cheese in particular, the name of the cheese? Do you have a favorite or?
I love cheese. I'm gonna start with like goat cheese. I love goat cheese. I love local one, a little bit smoked, or as well the Badia. There are so many type of cheeses here. The grey cheese is also amazing. It's a low-fat South Tyrolean cheese, who is really, really renowned.
Now, grey cheese is a very special local delicacy. If you like cheese, you won't be put off by the fact it has a powerful, penetrating smell. You also won't mind the fact that it looks like a loaf of bread. That's only because it has a layer of oxidized mold on the outside that gives the cheese its name. On the inside, it's a light-colored, delicate cheese that's delicious in the core of local dumpling dishes or on its own with some oil, vinegar, and onions. It's an extremely low-fat cheese made without rennet. All the good milk went to making butter. So what do you do with the leftovers? You make this delicious cheese. Now, no grey cheese is the same. Every farm and every mountain hut contributes its own part to this cheese culture with its own recipe. Order some cheese dumplings if you're in South Tyrol, and I dare you to tell me they aren't incredible. Now, I asked Melanie to summarize what else to expect if you visit the area.
Be hungry, because the cuisine here in South Tyrol, it's really delicious. And be thirsty as well, because we have great wines, great beers, great drinks.
And it's year-round. I mean, the hiking here in the summer...
It's amazing. I prefer more summer than winter, because I am in love with hiking.
In fact, I heard that refrain from many of the locals. They actually prefer summer to winter. And I asked Sylvia from the Alta Badia brand what activities they're planning for the summertime.
In the summer, we are launching the summer version of the wine experience. It's called Sommelier in the Hut.
Okay.
And it works very similar to the winter version, but it's growing. And in the summer version, the difference actually is that in the summer, you make the experience just in one hut.
Okay.
And in winter, it's a safari, so you go from hut to hut.
Okay. So is it normally something that you do in a day then, or
yes,
you spend
in a couple of hours you do the wine tasting experience in these huts.
Is there anything on the horizon that's new?
For the wine events, we have actually a similar event all winter long. It's called Sommelier on the Slopes. It works similar like one ski safari, but you can enjoy a tasting experience together with a ski instructor and a professional sommelier. So he can explain all the characteristics of the different wines.
And the sommelier skis with you?
Sorry?
Does the sommelier ski with you?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
That's a job.
Yeah.
Skiing sommelier is a job. Oh, man.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I finally found out what to do with the rest of my life. Finally, I asked Sylvia who is usually visiting the area.
I would say our tourism base is still quite local, like you said before. So we have many Italian, German, and Austrian people. We try to maintain that portion. Yes. But we are trying, of course, to go international. UK is growing very fast, so Eastern European markets. But we're also trying to go slowly overseas, so focusing on America, Canada, and also East, on the Eastern markets.
And with that, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please check out the links I put in the show notes and at eatdrinkfun.com. And if you have the time, I really appreciate any positive review you can leave wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to get in touch, maybe recommend a future episode, you can find me on Instagram or Twitter at eatdrinkfun. You can also email me at info@eatdrinkfun.com. Thanks again to Sylvia and the Alta Badia brand, to Nora at Kellerie St. Paul's, and to Melanie at Alpine Restaurant Pizza Lara. The intro music is Pluck It Up by Dan Henning. Our ad music is Ice Cream by Joey Pecoraro, and this outro tune is also by Joey Pecoraro. It's called Right You. Hey, please stay safe, everybody. Wash your hands, mask up, and let's get traveling again. Until next time, here's to eating well, drinking better, and never forgetting to have fun.